Amma ba'du. The last time that we came together a few weeks ago before I went to Canada, we were addressing the issue of Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam being sent to the people as a rahmah, as a mercy. As Allah mentioned in the Quran, وَمَا أَرْسَلْنَاكَ إِلَّا رَحْمَةً لِلْعَالَمِينَ. We did not send you except as a rahmah for all of the people. And Allah also mentioned about him concerning this issue of ar-rahmah and concerning his relationship and his dealings and his behavior with his companions. Allah mentioned وَلَوْ كُنْتَ فَضًّا غَلِيظَ الْقَلْبِ لَانْفَضُّوا مِنْ حَوْلِكَ. If you were rough and tough, they would have dispersed and they would have run away from you if you dealt with them very difficultly, if you were tough with them. فَبِمَا رَحْمَةٍ مِّنَ اللَّهِ لِنْتَ لَهُمْ. Allah said to him, it was a rahmah from Allah that you were easy with them, Ya Muhammad. So the Prophet ﷺ, he was a rahmah, he was gentle and he was easy with the Muslims, and he was gentle and he was easy with all of the people that he used to deal with. Allah mentioned in the Quran, Muhammadur Rasulullah وَالَّذِينَ مَعَهُ وَشِدَّاءُ عَلَى الْكُفَّارِ رُحَمَاءُ بَيْنَهُمْ. Muhammad is the messenger of Allah. He is serious with the kuffar and he has a lot of rahmah, mercy towards the believers. That's the way he was, and that's the way his companions were, and this is the way that we have to be. So we talked about how the Prophet ﷺ was a rahmah to every category of people. He was a rahmah to the very small people like Brother Hashim, his people his age. Many examples of how the Nabi had rahmah towards little kids like Hashim. And we also can see in his authentic seerah, in his history, that he was a rahmah towards the people who were bigger than Hashim, like Jawad and these guys. He was a rahmah towards the shabab as well, the shabab, like you brothers who were here, Bilal, Asif, Adil. He was a rahmah. He was a rahmah as well to the women. And when we say a rahmah to the women, he was a rahmah to the mother. He was a rahmah to the khala, the auntie. He was a rahmah to the wife, to the sister, to the daughter. He was a rahmah to the ajuz, or the old lady. The Prophet ﷺ was also a rahmah to his enemies, those people who wanted to destroy him. They wanted to kill him. When we say his enemies, we're not just talking about someone who just doesn't like him. We're talking about his enemies who wanted his imminent destruction. They wanted to kill him. They wanted him dead. And he, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, was a rahmah to them. Today, inshallah, we're going to talk about how he was a rahmah to a group of people. And I want you guys to pay attention to this, because the motivation for today's subject is something that I saw on the bus recently. And everybody here without any exclusion, those sisters over there and everybody sitting here, this is something that the father is supposed to teach his children in his house. This is something that every Muslim has to pay attention to. This is just not some class, some talk, kalam like this. This group of people, I want all of you guys to pay attention to it. All of you. The one who set up the camera, the one who set up the microphone, all of you who come in the first row and the second row, everybody. The Nabi, Prophet Muhammad al-Mustafa al-Mukhtar sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he was a rahmah to the elderly people, old people, whether they were Muslims or non-Muslims. You are not a real Muslim, if you don't understand this and you don't practice this. If you don't accept this, something wrong with you. Something's wrong with your Islam. The Prophet came, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and he was a rahmah to animals. We'll give that talk at some point, inshallah. He was a rahmah to the animals. We're going to give that dars at some point, inshallah. Now, the human being, whether it's the adolescent, whether it's the infant, whether it's the teenager, whether it's the woman, whether it's the old person, whether it's the handicapped, they're more important than the animals. So if he was a rahmah to the animals, and Allah Azza wa Jal mentioned in the Quran, وَلَقَدْ كَرَّمْنَا بَنِي Adam, we have honored Adam and his children, then clearly he was a rahmah to the human beings. And one of the important aspects and one of the important categories of people that he was a rahmah to were the elderly people. People who are old, whether they are kuffar or whether they are Muslims, but especially if they are Muslims. And the reason why I say that is the authentic hadith in which the Prophet says, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, "Man shaba shaybatan fil Islam, kanat lahu nuran yawm al-qiyamah." Anyone who gets gray in Islam, they become old, a man or a lady. Anyone who gets old, then that grayness, that whiteness will be nur for them yawm al-qiyamah. They're not like regular people. Your mother, your grandmother, your auntie, your uncle, any Muslim you see in the street who has a white beard, white hair, then that person deserves your respect. And we don't have any respect, unfortunately, many of the Muslims. The other day I was riding the number 14 bus, and I was coming from city center, and it was at the time when the kids get out of school, 2:30, 3:30, something like that. So the bus was full, packed out with passengers, most of them kids, Muslim kids, because the run from city center is through Alam Rock Road. It was packed out with Muslim kids. They were standing and sitting on the bus in the section where it is designated and reserved for pregnant women, the prams, old people, all the way to the back. Just Muslims, mostly Muslims. An old black lady, and this has nothing to do with black or white, but she had to be about 70, above 70, maybe 80. She got on the bus, and no one got up to give her their seat. She came from the beginning of the bus all the way to the back, where you have to take a step up to sit, and she was sitting with her back towards the driver. Not a single Muslim said to her, "Hey, tafaddali, hey, old lady, you can sit here." Not a single person. And probably the reason for that is not because they're bad Muslims and they don't know, but this issue of respecting older people, the elderly, is not being taught to us the way it should be taught. It's not being considered the way it should be considered. Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he told us, "Inna min ijlalillahi ikram the shaybat al-Muslim." From what shows that a person, he respects Allah, is when he respects a person who is old, a Muslim who is old. If you see an old person in Islam, any old person, you should give him your seat. You should open the door for him. You're at a walima where a nikah, a marriage took place, some celebration. When it's time to eat the food, the old people should go first. If it's a question between you going first or the older person, the Muslim who knows his religion and who has respect for Allah and reverence for Allah, automatically he's going to let the old person go first. He's not going to allow there to exist between him and an old person any problems. If that old person is his mother, his father, his auntie, his cousin, his neighbor, he's not going to give the old person a problem. If he does, something's wrong with him. Something is wrong. In his job, he's a taxi driver. When an old person gets in that taxi, he knows religiously he has to respect that person. He's not like any person getting in the car. If he works in the hospital, he respects this old person is not like any patient who's in the hospital. He has some store, anything that he's doing in his job, his profession, his vocation. When an old person comes, he's going to look at him special, because respecting old people is from what is a part of our religion. There was an old man during the time of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. He was walking through the people. There were many people. They were sitting, the companions, they were sitting. And they took a long time to open up the way so that the old man can walk through. They moved, and they moved very slowly. They didn't move too quickly. The man was walking, and people were getting out of the way very slowly, opening up the way. The Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam told his companions, "Laysa minna من لا يرحم صغيرنا ولا يوقر كبيرنا. He is not from us. He's not from the people of al-Islam. He's not from the people who will be raised up Yawm al-Qiyamah with me. He's not from the best of this ummah. Those people who don't have rahmah for the youngsters and they don't respect the elders. Now this hadith is important. When the Prophet saw that the people were taking a long time and they were taking their time to open up the way for the man, he said he's not from us, the one who doesn't respect the elderly. If you go to any masjid in Birmingham, you'll find at the door where the people come into the masjid, people just take their shoes off and they walk into the masjid. That's lack of respect to elderly people. And that's because, just like this hadith, when the old man was walking through, if you take your time to open up the way, maybe he'll trip over your feet. And if he trips over your feet, it's not like Hashim, who's goofing off and playing around. It's not like Hashim tripping over your feet. If Hashim were to fall down, he's going to jump right back up and he's going to laugh. The elderly person, if he trips over your foot, if he trips over your shoe that wasn't put in the place of the shoes, the shoe rack, he's going to break his hip. He's going to break his arm. So you may be a person who says, look, I was taught correctly. I respect elderly people. I know how to deal with them. Not putting your shoe on the rack is disrespect and inconsideration to the elderly people. That's how the ummah has become today. That we don't see these issues connected to every aspect of our life. So the Nabi said, he is not from us, the one who doesn't respect the elderly. Another hadith said, لا يعرف لكبيرنا حقه. The one who doesn't know the rights of the elderly. He doesn't even respect it. He has an auntie, an uncle, his mother, his father, and he's tough with them, then this is an indication and a sign he's not from the people of Islam. He's not from the people of Islam. Not that he's a kafir, but it means that he's not from the best people. His iman is not complete. He won't be raised up with the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wa ala alihi wasallam. And when the Prophet used to tell the people these things, and those ayat that he used to read these ayat and tell these people these things, he didn't go against what he told us. Abu Bakr's father, Abu Bakr as-Siddiq, his name is Abdullah. His father's name was Uthman. When the Prophet went back to Mecca sallallahu alaihi wasallam and he conquered Mecca, Abu Bakr as-Siddiq's father was in Mecca and he wanted to embrace Islam. Abu Bakr, he brought his father, Abu Quhafa, to the Nabi to embrace Islam. The Prophet told Abu Bakr, hey, Abu Bakr, it would have been better if you would have left your father where he was. I would have come to your father. Because his father was old and his father had a lot of white hair. The Nabi, although he's the Sayyid of Bani Adam, he's the best human being. He was the one who's going to get in the Jannat al-Firdaus, the best place, the Maqam al-Mahmud. And yet, he still had the humility to tell Abu Bakr, I have more right to come to your father. And when he looked at the father of Abu Bakr and he had all of that white in his hair, he told Abu Bakr and his relatives, غَيِّرُوا هَذَا وَاجْتَنِبُوا السَّوَادِ. He said, change his hair and stay away from black, meaning give him some dye. Give him some dye. And don't dye his hair with black, which goes to show, if you have an old person that you're responsible for, your mother, your auntie, your mother's sister, your father's sister, your father's brother, and they're in your house and they're handicapped, this hadith, when he said to Abu Bakr, change his hair, it shows that we have to take care of these people. We have to clean them. We have to make them look presentable to people. We can't just leave them like that. Some people, they put their elderly in the old folks' place, the convalescents. Just put them in the old folks' home. Some people say, no, I'm not going to put my mother, my father, my auntie there. I'm going to keep them in my house. But they keep them in the house and they don't bathe them. They don't take care of them. The Nabi told Abu Bakr and his family, change this whiteness in his hair and stay away from black. It's not permissible for a woman to dye her hair black. It's not permissible for a man to dye his beard black. When he starts to get white, he has to dye his hair yellow, orange, some other color of al-hinna. So the point is, the Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam, although he was the Sayyid of Bani Adam, he wasn't too arrogant to take care of himself with his own hands, with his own way of dealing with the people who are elderly. That's from the deen of Allah Azza wa Jalla. Concerning this issue of having respect for the elderly, this is important. He says, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, a Hashim, the Nabi told us, yusallimu al-saghir al-kabir. The one who is younger should give salams to the one who is older. You walk down the street. I'm an individual. I don't believe in the way that many Asian Muslims of Birmingham worship Allah. I don't agree with the Brahui way. I don't agree with the Deobandi way. I don't agree with that way. They have a lot of things that there are no proofs in the Quran and the Sunnah that support their religion. But if I were to see a man who's coming out of that masjid, Gumgul Sharif, if I were to see an old man who's walking down this street and he has a green turban, and he seems and he looks like he's one of those people, it's still my responsibility in Islam, when I see that man, even if I see him not being on what I'm on, I should be the one who says to him first, Assalamu alaikum. I shouldn't wait for him to say to me, Assalamu alaikum. I should say to him, Assalamu alaikum, because I'm younger than that individual. And I have to take into consideration, a lot of times, the elderly, they can't read, they can't write, they don't know about the internet, they're not as educated as some of the people who are educated now. They didn't have the opportunities that we have. So the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, in showing the position of those elders, he said that the youngster, the one who was younger, he should give salams to the one who is older. Too many examples. In the story of Yusuf, if you know that story, Yusuf, he wanted to keep his brother Benjamin. He wanted to keep him back when all of the brothers came to Egypt. After they threw Yusuf away and they didn't know who Yusuf was when they came to Egypt, Yusuf said to his workers, plant the cup of the king in the saddle of my brother. And then Yusuf said, hey, you people, someone from amongst you stole. They said, we didn't come here to steal. We didn't come to make mischief in the earth. Yusuf said, okay, if we check your stuff and we find the vessel with one of you, what should we do? They say, you should keep the one that you found the vessel with. So they began to check. They checked all of the other brothers, and then they came to Benjamin last. They found the cup with him, and Yusuf knew that. He planned it so that he wanted to keep his brother Benjamin back. When he found it, he said, here it is. So those people said something that's very important in the Quran. And they were from the Yahud. And the Yahud are people of problems. They are the original Yahud, those people. Those 10 brothers, those 9 brothers of Yusuf, the 9. Yusuf is 10, Benjamin is 11. Benjamin and Yusuf, they are good people. But the other 9, they are the problem of the Yahud today. They said to Yusuf, قالوا يا أيها العزيز إن له أبا شيخا كبيرا فخذ أحدنا مكانه إن نراك من المحسنين. They said to Yusuf, hey you, Aziz, respected leader. His father is an old man, Yaqub. His father is a Sheikh Kabir, he's an old man. So instead of keeping the young boy, take one of us in his place, because we see you from the Muhsinin. That's asking Yusuf, we see you a person who has ihsan. It's in every culture, it's in every religion, it's in every ethnic group. Respect the elders. Sikhs, Hindus, Kafirs, white, black, Arab, everybody understands you have to respect the elders. So instead of taking him, take one of us in his place, because his father is a Sheikh Kabir. His father is an old man. And if his father loses the second son, it's going to affect him. So here we have an ayat in the Quran where Allah mentioned that those people said he was a Sheikh Kabir, showing that we should respect the feelings of those people who are older. Anything that's going to bother an elderly person, anything that's going to cause him to be upset, you have to be sensitive to that. If you're not sensitive to it, then there's something wrong with you and your religion. Something is wrong with you and your religion. And this is not the only ayat in the Quran that mentions that. There are other ayats like Musa, salawatullahi wassalamu alayhi, when he killed the man and he left Egypt and he was on his way traveling and he saw the people at the well and he saw two ladies far away from the well. He said to them, Ma khatbukuma, what's wrong with you two that you don't go to the well and you don't water your animals like all of those men? They said, we're not going to go and mix with them men. Our father's a shaykhun kabir, so we have to work for him. Why would Allah mention and describe Shu'aib in this ayat as being a shaykhun kabir to the point that the daughters were forced to go out and work for the father? That goes to show from the benefits of that is that we have to give the khidmah, we have to take care of, we have to be responsible for older people. You have to carry their bag, you have to give them your seat, you have to open up the door for them, you have to make things easy for them. You can't be having conflict with them and giving them problems, whether they're your relatives or they're not your relatives. But if they're your relatives, it's even worse, or it's even more important to respect them, and it's worse to disrespect them. Look what Allah mentioned in the Quran about our relatives who are old. Allah mentioned, وَقَضَى رَبُّكَ أَلَّا تَعْبُدُوا إِلَّا إِيَّاهُ وَبِالْوَالِدَيْنِ إِحْسَانًا إِمَّا يَبْلُغَنَّ عِنْدَكَ الْكِبْرَ أَحَدُهُمَا أَوْ كَلَامُهُمَا فَلَا تَقُلْ لَهُمَا أُفٍّ وَلَا تَنْهَرْهُمَا وَقُلْ لَهُمَا قَوْلًا كَرِيمًا. If Allah said, Allah has legislated, Allah has ordained that you don't worship anyone but Allah. Don't worship Prophet Muhammad. Don't worship Ali ibn Abi Talib. Don't make shirk with Allah in any shape, form, or fashion. And Allah has ordained that you have ihsan to your parents. If you find one of them in the old age or both of them in the old age, then don't say to them uff. Don't say to them uff. And don't speak to them toughly. But say to them a statement that is kareem. And make dua for them. This ayat number 1, why would it mention if you find your parents at old age? It goes to show we respect the elderly no matter who they are. But if you find your parents from amongst the elderly, it's even more important. And the ayat goes to show, La taqul lahuma uff. Don't say to them any words that may harm them. So you have to be patient. From the huquq, from the rights of the elderly, you have to be patient with them. Sometimes the elderly, because of the way they are, they don't have a lot of patience with you. So they may come to you and give you a hard time, give you drama. You shouldn't respond to them, even if they are wrong, the way they responded to you. Don't say to them, oof. Don't say to them, get out of here. Don't say to them, mind your own business. Don't say that. But instead, قُلْ لَهُمْ قَوْلًا كَرِيمًا. Say to them a statement that is kareem. Kareem. They give you a hard time, you say to them, Jazakallahu khairan. Inshallah, mashallah. Don't give them a hard time. Especially if they're from your relatives, your mother, your father, your auntie, your older brother, anybody who has whiteness in his hair or whiteness in his beard, whiteness in her hair. From what clearly shows us the rahmah that the Nabi and the respect that Al-Islam gives to the elders. Pay attention, guys. Pay attention to this. There were some companions who were together and they were traveling and they came to the city of Al-Khaybar and one of their relatives was killed. 3 of them, they were together and they came, they found someone killed their relative. They left Khaybar and they came to the Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam. From the 3 people who came to the Nabi, the one whose brother was killed, his name was Abdul Rahman, and there were 2 other companions. They came to the Nabi and they wanted to tell him the story. Abdul Rahman, the brother of the deceased, was the youngest of the 3. He started to say, Ya Rasulullah, we went to Khaybar and I found my brother. The Nabi went like this. Kabbir al-Kubra. Kabbir al-Kubra. Let the eldest one from amongst you speak. Kabbir al-Kubra. Let the oldest one from amongst you speak. So we understand from that. It is not from Al-Islam. It's not from the etiquettes of Al-Islam. A bunch of us are in an assembly. You're in your father's house, you go visit your uncle, you go visit any place, and there are a number of elders who are there, it's not for you to start talking. Even if the truth is with you, and I'm saying this to you older brothers, and you younger brothers as well, it's not for you to put yourself forward. And this is one of the disturbing factors that we see with some of the Salafi brothers today. It goes to show that we're really falling way short of the mark. And some people even believe, many of us believe, we're really on a Salafiyah. But in issues like this, the Nabi said, he is not from us, the one who doesn't respect the Kabir, doesn't know his position. A Sheikh, Wasiullah Abbas, he took a position that doesn't go with your position. It doesn't go with your position. And you have the nerve to say, he doesn't know. He oppressed me. He should make tawbah. Something's wrong with you and your Salafiyah. Something's wrong with you. And the other side as well. The other side as well. You may not like, I may not like, and I may not agree, and I'm not a taqlidi Salafi. There's a sheikh, some of the shuyukh, they're responsible for creating some of this confusion. It's hizbiyah. And some of the sheikhs are cultivating people on hizbiyah. It's not for me to talk bad about that sheikh as well. It's not for me to say bad things about him. That sheikh is a fitna. That sheikh is, what's wrong with me? He's from the ulama of Islam. I'm supposed to say, no Bani Adam is exempt from fitna. That's what the Salaf used to say. As long as a person is living, he can apostate. As long as a person is living, he can leave the sunnah and become a mubtadi. As long as a person is living, he can follow his desires. Al-Imam al-Bukhari, he traveled from al-Bukhara and he went to Naysabur where Al-Imam Muslim was living, and he met the biggest scholar there and the eldest person there. And he was none other than Al-Imam Muhammad ibn Yahya al-Dhuhali. And Imam al-Dhuhali rahimahullah ta'ala, he has some jealousy against Al-Imam al-Bukhari. May Allah be pleased with all of the ulama of Islam, and have mercy upon all of the ulama of Islam. So as long as a person is living, he can be prone to fitna. Some of those companions, they believed in the Nabi. They saw the moon split, they saw miracles, they saw all kinds of, and when he did Al-Isra wa Mi'raj, some of them apostated because they were living. So never ever make your religion the religion. If the sheikh says, then I'm with the sheikh no matter what. No one is exempt from al-fitna. That's what the Salaf used to say. So the point that I'm trying to make here, Ikhwani, is we have to respect the elders. Even the kuffar. Because we're respecting that thing of being old. And there's a sunnah of Allah, a principle. The principle says, Kama tudin tudan. As you do, is going to be done to you. That's a sunnah of Allah. Sunnatullahi fil ladhina khalu min qabl wa lan tajida li sunnatillahi tabdila. That's the sunnah of Allah with the people who went before, and you won't find any change in the sunnah of Allah. You do good, good is going to come back to you. You do bad, bad is going to come back to you. That's a principle in the Quran. In tansurullah yansurukum. If you help Allah, Allah will help you. Udhkurullah yadhkurukum. Remember Allah, Allah remember you. Remember Allah, He'll be in front of you. That's a principle in the religion. So what's the point here? The point here is, if you respect elderly people now, you'll be respected when you get old, inshallah. You disrespect them now, you'll be disrespected later on, and Allah knows best. Didn't the Nabi tell the people sallallahu alaihi wasallam, irham man fil ard yarhamukum man fis sama? Have mercy on those who are in the earth, and the one who is in the heavens above the seven thrones, He'll have mercy upon you. If you don't have mercy on people in the earth, Allah won't have mercy upon you. So part of our religion is respecting older people, because the barakah is with the older people. As the Nabi, he says sallallahu alaihi wasallam, al barakatu ma'a akabirikum. The blessing is with the elders. The blessing is with the elders. So if we just want to take a practical look very quickly at some of what happened with the companions in the Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Hey guys, respect those people who are older than you. If you don't, something's wrong with you. Something's wrong with your Islam. Our elderly, and the kuffar elderly as well, but especially the elderly of the Muslims. You have to consider them. Look what happened. Mu'adh ibn Jabal. He's from the ulama of the companions. Keep that in the back of your mind. Not only is he from the ulama of the companions, Yawm al-Qiyamah, Mu'adh ibn Jabal will be raised up and he'll be holding a flag. And behind him will be all of the ulama of all of the previous nations. That's from his special characteristics. The ulama of Bani Israel, the ulama of all of the nations will be behind him. He's from the ulama. One of the 4 people that Nabi told his companion, Istaqirul Quran min arba'. Learn the Quran from 4 people. One of them, Mu'adh ibn Jabal. He used to be the imam in the masjid of Quba. But because of his desire for good, he used to pray Salat al-Isha with the Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam in the masjid al-Nabawi. So Mu'adh would go and pray Salat al-Isha there, and the people close to that masjid used to wait for him. He prayed Isha, and then he comes to his masjid where he was the imam, and he'll pray Salat al-Isha. It was the sunnah for him, wajib for them. One time he started to pray Salat al-Isha, Allahu Akbar, and he started reading Surah al-Baqarah. A man got out of the line, and he went over to the corner and he prayed Isha very quickly, and he went home. Someone told Mu'adh ibn Jabal, the scholar, the companion, hey, a man did this and this and this. Mu'adh ibn Jabal said, he's from the munafiqeen. He's a munafiq, he's a hypocrite, he's a kafir. He left the salah with the jama'at, with the Muslims. He didn't want to listen to the Quran. He didn't want to be with the jama'at. He's a munafiq. That's from the actions of the munafiq. From the actions of the munafiq, if the dhikr of Allah comes, they don't want to hear it. So Mu'adh, he had in his mind, that man is a munafiq. So Mu'adh told the Prophet what happened. The Prophet ﷺ told the man, come. Why did you do that? The man said, Ya Rasulullah, I'm out in the desert. I'm working all day. The sun is beating me down, beating me up and beating me down. And then I come and I wait for Mu'adh to pray with you. And then he finally comes and he starts reading Surah al-Baqarah. I'm tired. I can't wait that long. The Nabi became extremely upset, became very angry. He said to Mu'adh 3 times, do you make fitna? Afattanun anta ya Mu'adh? 3 times. They said, we never saw him that angry before. And then he says, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, إذا صلى أحدكم للناس فليخفف فإن منهم الكبير والضعيف وذو الحاجة. If any of you pray as the imam for a group of people, then make your salat easy, khafif. Because behind the imam is the kabir, the old man who has to pray on the chair, the old man who had an operation, the old man who can't stand up very long. Behind them is the da'if, the person who's sick, the old person, sick, that can't stand that long. And behind them is the person who has something to do. On the day of Al-Jum'ah, I want to give the khutbah at Green Lane, I need an hour to talk about my point. But if I go beyond 30 minutes, some people have to get back to work. Some people have to go to school. Some people have an exam. They're already making efforts and sacrifices to come to the Jum'ah, and you're going to talk for 1 hour? So that hadith, ikhwani, it goes to show the rahmah that the Nabi had towards those people who are old. For you older brothers, pay attention. Pay attention to this minhaj point. Mu'adh ibn Jabal, he gave a hukm and a ruling that man was a munafiq. Mu'adh ibn Jabal will be raised Yawm al-Qiyamah as the imam of the ulama. And his ruling, he's a munafiq, was wrong. It was wrong. So if a sheikh, no matter who he is, he said this person mubtadi', this person is good, this person is, no matter who he is, Al-Bukhari, Ali al-Madini, Al-Imam Ahmad, Al-Imam Malik, no matter who he is, he could be right, he could be wrong. We have to look at his dalil. Don't come and be of those taqleed Salafi people who say, this sheikh said, this sheikh said. The sheikh said we were good, the sheikh said you were bad. And that's the dalil? That's not the dalil in the Salafiyah that the ulama of the past were upon. And don't be of those people who are mutaza'zi'een, those people who they become afraid because many people, or they're very loud, or you're a few people and you don't have a big voice. Don't be of those people. Be of the people, where's the dalil? Where's the dalil? Mu'adh ibn Jabal radiallahu anhu, He said that that man was a munafiq, which means he's a kafir. And although that was his hukum, he doesn't go outside of Islam because he was basing the thing on his ijtihad and he made a mistake. So any scholar can make ijtihad. He can be right and he can be wrong. But the difference between them and us is that when the scholar makes ijtihad, he'll still get a reward. Just that we don't follow the ijtihad of the scholar when they make a mistake. So, ikhwani fillah, sisters, respect the elders, respect the elders, respect the people who are older in Islam. If you don't, something's wrong with you. Something is wrong with you. How many of you performed Hajj? How many of you perform Hajj? Put your hand up if you perform Hajj. Only one person. How many of you did not perform Hajj? Put your hand up. You didn't perform Hajj. Now I know some of you want to be humble, like Hashim. You don't want to let people know if he did. If you perform Hajj, put your hand up. Let me see. Let me see if you perform Hajj. Put your hand up. If you didn't perform Hajj, put your hand up. Oh, okay, you say Ameen. Oh, Allah help them to make Hajj. Oh, Allah make it easy for them to make Hajj this year. For those of you who performed Hajj, you know that Hajj is difficult. Hajj is difficult. The rahmah of the Nabi on women is that some women came and said, the men, they make jihad, real jihad, real jihad. Not this stuff that these people are talking about, Al-Qaeda and all of this stuff. People in Birmingham, other than Birmingham, saying jihad, that's crazy. That's fasad. During that time, we're talking about. The lady said, we women, we want to go and make jihad with you, Ya Rasulullah. He said, no jihad for women. Your jihad is Hajj. That's the rahmah of the Nabi on women. No jihad for you. And you can't be killed. If Muslims come, you can't kill women. You can't kill women. That's the rahmah of the Nabi on women. He said, your jihad is al-Hajj, has no fighting. It's jihad. So those of us who have made jihad of al-Hajj with our wives or without our wives, Hajj is tough. It's tough. Whether you pay 5,000 pounds or you do it on the low and on the easy. 1,000 pounds, jihad is tough. When you make jihad or al-Hajj, you have to go to Muzdalifah. After Arafah, Muzdalifah. And usually you're very tired. So the sunnah of the Nabi is get to Muzdalifah, pray Maghrib and Isha, 3 rakats, 2 rakats, and go to sleep. That's it. Because the next day is the heavy day. The next day in Mina, you're going to stone, you're going to slaughter, you're going to cut, you're going to make tawaf al-ifadah. So you go right to sleep. On that night though, the Nabi would sleep, and then when Fajr came, he would pray Salat of al-Fajr. But he allowed the old people, they can leave from Muzdalifah to go to Mina before everyone else. When do they leave? They leave at the half point of the night, Nisful Layl. Now this is important, guys, especially you older brothers, that we got to get fiqh of the religion. When people find out that old people can leave half of the night, ignorant Muslims say, okay, half of the night, 12 o'clock. 12 o'clock is not half of the night in Islam. 12 o'clock is not half of the night in Islam. I was born March 10th, the other day. But what's better for me is to know what day I was born in the Islamic calendar. You go back home, Hashim, go back home, and you put in the internet and Google, come up with the Islamic conversion. Whatever day you were born on, I won't call it your birthday. You were born March 10th. You converted to see what day you were born in Islam, and you remember that day. You remember that day. Half of the night in Islam is the time that Salat al-Maghrib comes in, whatever time it is, and the time that Salat al-Fajr comes in. Those hours, you count them up and you split them in half. And that's when you can leave. The old person can leave. Your mother, your wife's mother, your wife's father, any old person that you're responsible for Hajj, you can leave at that time. Not 12 o'clock midnight. Not 12 o'clock midnight. So that goes to show the rahmah that the Nabi paid, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and the attention to the people who are shiyukh. Too many examples. The lady came. She said, Ya Rasulullah, my father's an old man. He can't even sit on his animal to make hajj. He fall off. He's so old. He's weak. Can I make hajj for him? The Nabi said, yes, you can make hajj for your father because he's too old. Hijab. Hijab. My man, you know what hijab means? The covering that the women wear. Every Muslim woman should wear hijab. Your mother, my mother, your sister, my sister, your wife, my wife, every Muslim woman, when she reaches a certain age, she should wear hijab, cover up herself. But Allah made it easy for your grandmother. Allah made it easy for your mother who's real old. He mentioned in the Quran, وَالْقَوَاعِدُ مِنَ النِّسَاءِ اللَّاتِي لَا يَرْجُونَ النِّكَاحَ فَلَيْسَ عَلَيْهُنَّ جُنَاحٌ أَن يَضَعْنَ ثِيَابَهُنَّ غَيْرُ مُتَبَرِّجَاتٍ بِالزِّينَةِ وَأَن يَسْتَعْفَفْنَ خَيْرٌ لَهُنَّ. The women who become very old, like your grandmother in Mirpur, she real old, 80, 85. Allah said, this woman, she doesn't have to wear hijab. She could just sit there with that thing they just wrap around, it's okay, because she's old. That's the rahmah that Allah Azza wa Jal had in making things easy for the old people. The old men and the old women, there are just too many examples. So the point here, Ikhwani, is in this city of Birmingham, no matter what your job is, you're going to come across old people. You brothers who are students in the university, in your school, if your teacher is an old person with white in their hair, don't suck your teeth. He may not be a nice person. You always have those teachers you don't like. But if they have white in your religion, in your deen, you have to have sabr with them. Don't be of the people, when they do stuff to you, roll your eyes, talk about them. From your religion, you respect them because that's what Allah Azza wa Jal commanded you to do, and that's what the Prophet taught you, sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Any old person, your neighbor, old people, your neighbor, they're old, kuffar. They may even drink. You see them coming home drunk. They are nasty in their attitude and their behavior, or they may be nice, whatever the case is. When you come in contact with and when you come across old people, the word is respect. Respect. And if that person is a Muslim, then the respect even more. From the respect of Allah, from exalting Allah, is respecting the Muslim who has gray. He is not from us, the one who doesn't respect the Muslim. He is not from us, the one who doesn't know the rights of the Muslim. Now I got to finish with this, the other side. Because in the Asian culture teaches you to respect people, but sometimes it's ghulu. Now this talk does not mean that you can't tell an elderly person the truth. The older person doesn't know the religion. So therefore you have to respect them and you can't say anything. It doesn't mean that. But when you tell them the truth, tell them in a nice way. In our culture, the older person should just be listening. You have to listen to him no matter what he says. No, not in this religion. We respect them. We respect them. One time, a man who owned the house, he came to the Prophet to give the Prophet some milk. To the left of the Prophet was Abu Bakr, a sheikh. To the right of the Prophet was a little boy. The man came and he's going to start with the best and the eldest. So even if there are a lot of people in the majlis, you start with your father, you start with your uncle, you start with the sheikh. Although he's not on your right, you go to the one who's the most virtuous. You guys got that picture? He gave the Nabi the milk. The Nabi drank some, and then he turned to his right. Because from him, now we have to go to the right. The Nabi said, hey, to my left is your elder, a sheikh. If you allow, I'll give it to him. And if you don't, you have the most right. The little boy said, La wallahi, I'm not going to give my haqq when it comes to you over anybody. So he took the bowl of the Nabi, he looked where the Prophet drank from, and he drank it. So that goes to show what? It goes to show, as a youngster, if you know the truth, you stand on the truth, even if it's against all of your culture. Your uncle, your mother, your father, your uncles, everybody. Everybody in that Brelvi masjid, that Deobandi masjid, all of them. If you know what you're doing is the correct way, then don't compromise and don't acquiesce the truth. But you have to be respectful. You have to be easy. You have to be gentle. Don't disrespect the people who are older. As for the person who's older and he's crazy and something's wrong with him, and you disrespect him, then he deserves that. For an example, there's a guy in Pakistan, he has an organization called Minhaj al-Quran. Minhaj al-Quran. He says all kind of crazy things, and he has white, and he's older. He's an innovator, and he falls into shirk, and he falls into that which will destroy the religion. And because he should know, because he has knowledge and he has age and experience, because of all of those factors that he has knowledge and he knows what he's doing, because of that, we're not going to respect him. We won't give him salam. We won't shake his hand. We'll let him know what you're doing is crazy, because you're the reason why my mother, my father, many other people may be astray because of you. But these issues of knowing how to deal with him and making a distinction between him and other people is going to come with knowledge, and it's going to come with experience. So we have to understand this issue in a balanced way. But generally speaking, you guys, respect those people who are older. Hashim, you understand what I just said? Hashim, hey man, open this up. You, move over. Hashim, do you understand what I'm saying? Okay then. Okay, Ikhwani, this is what we wanted to mention to you guys today. Respect your elders, your mother, your father, and all of those people, and don't be disrespectful. If you guys have any questions concerning today's discussion, you can put your question forward.
You know how the brother gave the milk to the puppy upon him first and then went right? Is that like, say when we see people, should we give salam to the older person first and then go to the right?
Good question, my man. This hadith that we just mentioned just now about the bowl of milk, if there are a group of people who are there, and they know the religion, they understand the religion, that elderly person knows starting from the right is what the Prophet used to do, sallallahu alaihi wasallam. You know, if you start from the right, you don't begin with him, you know he's not going to be upset because he understands the sunnah, then you can start from the right. You can start from the right. But if you chose to start with him, you're not wrong. If you chose to start with him, you're not wrong, because this issue right here showed us the permissibility of it. If it was not permissible, the Nabi would have told him, don't do that. And that happened with him, sallallahu alaihi wasallam. 2 hadith. One in Sahih al-Bukhari. He said, I saw in a dream that there were 2 people, and I was using the miswak in a dream. I was using my own miswak, the Nabi said. And then I took the miswak and I gave it to the younger person. And then Jibril came to me and said, Kabbir, Kabbir. Give it to the bigger. He said, so I took it from the bigger and I took it from the smaller and I gave it to the bigger. So Jibril told him that, start with the big one. That same hadith is in Bukhari, and Imam Ibn Hajar in Fath al-Bari, he said this incident happened in the dream. And he brought a narration from the Musnad of Imam Ahmed. It has some kalam in it. It has some kalam. May not be totally authentic, but it is not really, really weak. So we can make a nice with it. It said that one of the companions said that the Nabi was using a miswak, and then there were 2 men who were with him, and they wanted the miswak, and he gave it to the one who was bigger. So starting with the bigger person, it has its authority, it has its dalil. Now if you know for a fact, not starting with the elderly person is going to make fitna, then from the fiqh of keeping down fitna, you should start with him. But if you know he's a scholar died recently, his name was Abdul Mannan, al-Hafiz Abdul Mannan Nurpuri, rahimahullah ta'ala. The masajid of Ahlul Hadith in this country, they make the janazah for the salat of the ghaib. If someone dies in Mirpur, Pakistan somewhere, Rawalpindi, they pray janazah over there, and we pray it here as well. Up and down the country, in all of the masajid, your relative died, his relative, we're going to pray in the masjid. I tell them, man, we shouldn't do it. We shouldn't do it. If they made janazah there, leave it. But it is an issue of ikhtilaf. Some of the ulama who we respect right now from the Hanabila in Saudi Arabia, when an Amir dies, they allow the salat to be done again. I believe that shouldn't be done. It's bid'ah. I believe that. That's my position, but I respect there's ikhtilaf in the issue. The problem with it being done here is we only do it for your relatives, the people of the masjid. If the guy from Gambia, the guy from Nigeria came and say, hey, my relative died, they'll say, go to the Gambia masjid and do it. So if you only do it for the Asians, and you don't do it for the others, that's social hypocrisy. So I say, close the door. Don't do it for anyone. How are you going to do it for some and don't do it for others? Now the point here is, how can we make the salat of al-ghaib on the janazah for your relative, his relative, and then when this sheikh dies, we don't do it? Not only do we not do it, but we don't even let the people know what happened. That's because, one of the reasons is because we're not really taking advantage of, or we're not really seeing the seriousness of being real Ahlul Hadith. Being real Ahlul Hadith. So a sheikh like that, Abdul Mannan, sheikh like Az-Zubair Ali Zayd, these type of people, if you're in their presence and you don't start with the right, maybe he'll say something. Or if you start with the right, he's going to understand, then start with the right if you want. But if you go to him, then you have a dalil to do it.